And we're going to keep talking about crypto right now because, of course, it hit a lot of milestones in 2024. Bitcoin surpassed 100,000 on the back of President-elect Trump's election victory. But Bitcoin is having a little bit of a fizzle to end the year. So what could be next for crypto as we move into the new year? Joining us now, Joe McCann, founder, CEO, and CIO at Asymmetric. And sticking with us, Steve Sosnick, chief strategist at Interactive Brokers. Joe, thanks for being here. You probably just heard the tail end of our conversation about MicroStrategy and its strategy this year, which is also something that's sort of been a hallmark, I guess, and has gotten a lot of attention here in 2024. So we saw the huge run-up in Bitcoin in anticipation of, and then in reaction to, Donald Trump's victory. When he actually takes office, are we going to see any kind of a sell the news, or what? How much do you think Bitcoin will be reactive to policy changes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Julie. So I think first, for 2024, there were three major catalysts. First being the ETF, second being the Fed's easing policy, and then third, of course, the election. So the obvious question is, well, when Trump actually comes into office, what happens to the price of Bitcoin? Are things already priced in? And what we're seeing in the options markets, there's a significant amount of open interest for the end of January strike, as well as pretty elevated vol structures for end of January. What that suggests is that people are anticipating a run-up in price again, and we saw this happen with the ETFs in January of this year. Subsequently, there was a pullback. That should be expected. I think the key thing to understand with crypto or Bitcoin in general is it's a very volatile asset class. Now, the volatility is starting to subside because it's becoming more mature. So as we move into 2025, we expect continued institutional adoption, as well as some of the potential wildcards like a strategic Bitcoin reserve. That could actually have a meaningful impact on the price of Bitcoin.
Hi, this is Steve Sosnick here. So my question then becomes, do we see a real use case for Bitcoin in 2025, other than potentially an investment tool or strategic reserve or something of that matter? The blockchain has been promised to us for years, and Bitcoin, of course, is sort of the initial, flowering of the blockchain. Do you see a use case other than as an investment vehicle or as an asset?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fair question, Steve, right? Look, Bitcoin is the kind of genesis of blockchain-based technology, and it has pretty much supplanted itself as digital gold. I think that is a very valuable concept for investors because gold has been around for hundreds of years as, an inflation hedge or a hedge against financial stress. At Asymmetric, we actually are a venture capital fund as well, and we invest in specifically out of a fund in early stage companies that are building on Bitcoin. So there's actually a proliferation of companies that are utilizing Bitcoin at the settlement layer to build interesting, call them decentralized financial products that currently exist in places like Ethereum and Solana. Now, the big difference is other chains are well ahead of Bitcoin. However, Bitcoin has the largest, market cap, and the value associated with Bitcoin is yet to kind of feed into some of these new DeFi applications. But there's been a tremendous amount of developer activity that's happened in the Bitcoin space. So I think you'll see actually a number of use cases. You mentioned potentially Michael Saylor lending his Bitcoin. Well, there are protocols now that already exist for Bitcoin lending. This is just an example of the type of innovation that is going to continue to come with real use cases on Bitcoin in 2025.
Joe, we've talked to a lot of folks about policy changes that could come, and a lot of that policy change has to do with getting out of the way, it seems like, on the part of regulators. What changes are you expecting for those businesses that you're investing in? Because it seems like you've been already doing it, right? The companies you're investing in are doing that work. How much easier will it be? Will it not be meaningfully different? Or, what are you expecting?
I mean, it is by far the most bullish catalyst for the entire industry. I mean, the way that I've kind of described it to the founders in our portfolio companies today is forget everything you've known about the challenges with crypto's regulation or lack thereof. It is an entirely new world. That is a huge set of expectations that we do have for the Trump administration. But if you look at the appointments that he's put in place, these are real builders, folks like David Sachs, and even getting advice from folks like Mark Andreessen, bringing, I would say, just common sense to enabling founders, innovators, and entrepreneurs to build in the United States. And so from a pure regulatory standpoint, I think there's some basic blocking and tackling that will occur. One being the stablecoin bill will likely get pushed through. Will we see the market structure bill, come to a vote and pass? That's kind of TBD. But ultimately, what we're looking for is clarity. And I think some of the folks that he has put into positions at the SEC, some of the financial services committees, et cetera, are not looking to just allow sort of a cowboy-like environment as it relates to crypto, but bringing common sense regulation so that crypto can actually thrive in the United States.
To that point, Joe, then where's the sort of the happy medium of regulation? Because obviously crypto grew up in an environment, when it was the Wild West and it had its first flourish then. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people, as it becomes more institutionalized, more held by retail, ETFs, et cetera, there is sort of a need for regulation. What, broadly speaking, where do you see that intelligent regulation ending up?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it is as simple as, are crypto assets securities or not? I would argue, and I think the entire industry would argue, that they are not. The CFTC has currently argued that they are not. We have had a lack of clarity from the SEC on this, where they're naming certain assets as securities, but not actually confirming that they are securities. So that aspect alone has a huge downstream impact on other areas of regulation. So if, for example, we find out that, say, the CFTC is going to regulate crypto as commodities, that fundamentally changes the landscape for crypto assets, and not only how they can actually be issued, but most importantly, how they can start to look like stocks. Currently, most crypto assets don't pay, quote, dividends, which in crypto we call protocol revenue, because of fear by the founders that it could look like a security. If we get some sort of regulation around that, you may start to see crypto assets look much more like stocks that pay dividends versus what they are today.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Joe. Good stuff. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy New Year to you. Thanks.
And Steve, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.